All right, y'all, what's going on? It's Combo Breaker 99 back with another video. All right, y'all, so Megan Anderson, she's been catching some heat. She's been catching some heat over her recent comments about Kayla Harrison cutting her weight to move down to 135. And, Megan Anderson saying that she's probably, really miserable cutting down to this weight. And like she said, she feels like Kayla Harrison probably won't have a long run at 135 because the weight cuts are so rough on her. But, I mean, was she wrong? Where was she wrong? That's what I got to ask first. Some people were so quick to go in on her and just start calling Megan Anderson names over her opinion. But I'm like, where was she wrong? Like, where did she sound like she was hating? I mean, we were talking about this the other night on the WMMA mashup show. And, I was just asking the same questions, like, how long a run does Kayla Harrison have? Like, can she make a couple of more weight cuts down to 135? How are they making her body feel? How does she feel right now leading up to this Juliana Pena fight, Because Kayla, she does cut a lot of weight. And we know they're rough because she's fighting in a weight class we never expected her to be in because, I mean, look at her. Look at her. I mean, I posted the picture the other day. It's like everybody always needs a refresher. Like, when they see her, they're like, whoa, Kayla is jacked. Like, how the heck is she making 135? People ask that. So, yeah, we were discussing this the other night. Like I said, about how long could she make weight and how many more fights could she do, because Kayla, who was fighting at 155 in PFL, was making some drastic weight cuts. She's making drastic weight cuts. I mean, when I first heard she was moving down to 135 to fight Holly Holm, I was like, are they serious? Is this for real? Like, are they going to do this to her? Like, why are they not doing featherweight right now? That was what I had to say. So when I hear Megan Anderson just kind of give her thoughts on it, and she just kind of speak off of experience and just really analyze here, I mean, she has a right to speak on it because y'all got to remember, she was a fighter too. Believe it or not, she was a fighter. And though they are built different, Megan, she's a big woman too. She's a big woman too, and she had to make a rough weight cut down to 145. I mean, both of these fighters are Amazons, and they have a lot of weight to lose, even, just going by their size differences and how they're built. Megan had a rough time getting down to featherweight. So whenever she was speaking on this, I was like, wow, she was saying some of the same things we were talking about, because like she said, Kayla Harrison could make this weight, but something's going to suffer. She's going to sacrifice something, whether it be maybe cardio, the physical strength, her timing, her chin, her durability, all of these things. One or two of these things could be something she suffers from, or all of the above in a fight. That's what people have to take into consideration when they're moving down in weight. Because I was just kind of looking back at some of the fighters I knew in boxing, and you see them trying to make these rough weight cuts because this is where they feel comfortable fighting at, because of maybe their height or their reach. They want to cut like 20, 30 pounds. It takes its toll. It takes its toll big time. And I'm not just saying, for the time being, but I mean like longevity. It cuts your life short. It'll cut your life short. If it doesn't cut your life short, it'll cut some things off from you having like a healthy lifestyle after the fight game, So the fighter lifestyle, it isn't like a healthy lifestyle to live. Okay. Like, it may look like it when you look at the person's body, like, oh yeah, this person's in great shape. Oh, they'll be around a long time. Then boom, sometimes you hear this fighter got brain damage, and boom, this fighter's dead, or, bodybuilder's dead, or something like that. You hear a lot of these athletes, they put their body through hell, and we think that this is the standard to live by, but no, it really isn't. It really isn't, because they're doing so many things to their body, in such a little amount of time, to get to a certain point to compete, and it takes its toll. Like, I was just going back again, looking at some of the fighters, like from 135, 145, and, making those rough weight cuts. It does so much damage to your heart, your kidneys, short-term memory loss, things like that. Once looking at the like the lighter weight boxers versus like the heavyweights, like heavyweights and light heavyweights don't have to cut so much like the these welterweights and so on, that the welterweights and lighter weight boxers, they lose brain volume over time. You lose brain volume, you're losing volume to your brain, so you slowly are killing your brain. You're slowly killing yourself. So that's where the short-term memory loss comes in. But this is how Megan Anderson put it. Let me pull it up here, because I just want to read her take on it, because I agree with it 100%. She said, the caveat for me with Kayla is, I said it when it was announced that she was going to drop to 135. Just because you can make the weight doesn't mean you should. Exactly. Like, you could cut it, you could cut down to it, you could kill yourself, or you could feel good doing it, but something's going to suffer. Something inside is going to suffer. So that right there is saying, okay, I can do it, but that doesn't necessarily, I should be doing it, right? That's a lot of things in life. So I agree with that. For women, these big weight cuts hormonally, it's not good. So even if she goes out there and she dominates Juliana, or it's a back and forth battle, she ends up becoming champion, I don't see her fighting for too much longer. It's a toll on the body. It's the quality of life, So that's what she said. And I agree there because, she could go out there and win the fight, dominate, but along the way, something's going to be damaged. Just to get to this point, she's going to have sacrificed something. Or it could turn into a back and forth war, like she said, because Kayla Harrison might be lacking something. Kayla might be off. Kayla might be sluggish and tired. Her vision might be impaired, because of brain fog or whatever, or her chin might not be holding up because of the rough weight cut. So a couple of shots from Pena could put her on Queer Street just like that, so it could be back and forth because of the weight cut. So she's gonna suffer from, something in this fight, if the weight cut is still killing her like that. So with that being said, though, let's say she does win the belt. Like Megan said, I don't see her fighting it this way too long. I don't see her fighting it this way too long. Like, I don't see this as like a longevity thing. Like, with Amanda being in 135 going on a long run like that, I don't see her staying here too long because it seems like her rough battles are the weight cuts. Not necessarily the opponents, but the weight cuts are what are really making it rough for her to go in there and perform to a high level. Like I said before, 155, no problem. 145, it's okay, but she can still do it. But 135, never seen it. I never seen it, honestly, man. I was like, are they serious making her cut down to this weight when it first happened? That was my question. Like, are y'all really serious? And is she serious for doing it? So, yeah, what Megan is saying is true. She said, look, I know for a fact that the weight cut is miserable for her because I know that 145 was miserable for me. It was hard. The last 15 pounds were tough. The last 5 pounds was the worst. Right. See, that's the thing people don't think about. Like, okay, 10 pounds is bad, but once you get down to like the last 5 or 4, your body's like, okay, what else can we cut off besides hair? We gonna cut some flesh off here? No, it's like, if the body starts to look, it's still looking for this other weight. Where's this other weight going to come from? All the water's been drained. So that's where that's where your body starts to become sick, like the dehydration, you can't find any more water weight. What else is going to start coming out of you? And that's where the kidneys are saying, okay, we can't do this anymore. And they'll automatically shut down. Just ask Sarge Eubank. She went to the ER for it. She couldn't perform because her kidneys shut down on her, so once that happens, you start to lose the electrolytes in your body. Energy starts to sap. All this starts to sap right before fight, right before the fight. So your battle before the fight is actually worse than the actual fight, your actual opponent. Okay, so this was also what she said. She's going to start preparing 3 months out before that weight cut because it's so big for her. That's my biggest issue with Kayla, but she's looked great so far, and I definitely think it's going to come down to who wants it more. All right, going into the fight, she said, because Pena, despite whatever bad position she's put in, no matter how many times you hit her, no matter how many submission attempts she gets in, she will defend it. She'll find a way to get out of it, and she'll try to turn the tide. The championship mentality, and that is what got her to this point so far. All right, so yeah, I guess she means with Kayla right there because, Pena doesn't stop trying. So, again, having a rough weight cut, and if she comes in there sluggish like she did in the Ketlin Vieira fight, I honestly think Pena could beat her then. Like, let's be real. Like, if Pena's ready, hungry, and hitting as hard as she did against Amanda, and you see some sluggish moments like Ketlin Vieira in the Ketlin Vieira fight with Kayla, or if she's just off a little bit more, Pena's going to be a dog. Pena's going to be a dog in there. Pena doesn't go down easy. You have to stop Pena. So if Kayla doesn't have the stopping power or the stopping strategy or the stopping strength, Pena could easily win that fight or definitely make Kayla wish she wasn't in that fight. Okay? Like, Pena's got to be out of there. Let's be honest about that. Pena has to be taken out, just like GDR, Valentina did, or at least beat her to a pulp like Amanda did. But even then, if you do that, you still going to suffer something. So I think the more I look at this, Kayla's going to look like she's been in a fight in this one, especially if she ain't got her legs up under her because this weight cut is so rough. So again, I agree with the man, Megan Anderson on this. A lot of people don't agree, or they were mad, like they think she was hating. I'm like, no, she's not hating. Like, she's a fighter, and she knows this. Like, she's saying the same things I've seen already with Kayla Harrison. Like, Kayla, a week out before her last fight, had to go to the ER. I don't know if it was strictly tied to the weight, but it must have been, because she said she was passing blood. She was urinating blood. Had some other things going on where she had to go to the emergency room. Who else knows what was going on? But once again, like I said, when fighters put their bodies through these things, people just don't think about it like long-term damage or the damage right then. Like, what were some other things I was looking at here? And yeah, just like a little list of things right here, like I've seen over time. Like I said, dehydration, continuing to take a lot of water weight out of your body, it'll do damage to your kidneys, of course, also to the heart, the circulation from the heart. If the blood doesn't have anything in there, the heart is not pumping right. Loss of electrolytes is going to leave you with no energy, right? Which will lead you to maybe passing out, like you've seen some people have on the scale. And again, prone to knockouts. You'll be prone to knockouts, like lighter weights making harder weight cuts. They make harder weight cuts, so over time, you lose brain volume. So she might be good right now from these first few 2 or 3, but as time goes on, like if she goes into another fight at 135, from losing 20, 30, 40 pounds over the course of 2-3 months in such a harsh and drastic way, especially a lot of water weight, like I was saying, and muscle combined, she's going to lose a lot of brain volume. I'll show you all the pictures sometime. These pictures I've seen where brain volume is just deteriorating over time, decreasing over time. So that contributes to short-term memory loss. That's where you put all that together. Again, like Bernard Hopkins said, like when he was talking about how Roy Jones dropped 25 pounds of muscle from heavyweight to light heavyweight, that's what did damage to him over time. Like you can see like the color of his skin, and also it messed his chin up for, the rest of his boxing career. Okay, he moved down. When did he have that fight? What was it fight with he had a fight with John Ruiz at heavyweight. He drops 25 pounds of muscle back down to light heavyweight. Doesn't look the same. Barely wins the fight against Tarver, right? So he looked bad in that fight. But going into the next fight, though he felt like, okay, I had the full time to prepare, his body was never the same though. All that muscle that he lost, and probably the brain, wasn't the same. The brain volume wasn't the same. So with all of that factored in, it left his chin vulnerable. So one shot put him down. So from then on, Glenn Johnson, Danny Green, Lebedev, all these other fighters, they could touch his chin and it would put him down. He lost reflexes and everything. So Roy was a solid guy too. It's like Kayla, he had to lose muscle. He gained almost like 20 pounds of muscle, and then he drops 25 pounds of muscle. So just think about that. So that did its damage to him. It definitely did its damage. So I could see the same thing happen with Kayla here. Walking around 165, set 170, and then you drop this weight like multiple times, in a manner, say if you fighting 2-3 times a year and you doing this all the time, that's killer. I know I've seen some pictures of her kind of looking already trimmed and slim, but what is she going through to get there? And again, like I said before, it's probably like, it's probably got to be a strict lifestyle for her at this point. I know B-Hop, Bernard Hopkins, he made it his lifestyle from the beginning of his career to the end of his career, where he was always walking around near his fight weight, same like Floyd Mayweather. But with women, especially like Kayla's size and Megan, like it's hard for them to lose that type of weight. It's hard for them to lose it like they do, So I agree with Kayla on this. I agree with Megan Anderson on this one. Like, she's got to be miserable. And I agree. I don't see her fighting at 135 not much longer than, maybe winning the belt and maybe defending the belt once if she wins it. And that's it. One other example before I go to is, Macy Chiasson. Macy Chiasson is somebody, I just analyze and get eye test off of before she even said it. Was 145, she was fine. And I could see that, she looked strong, her power was there, and she looked healthy. But when she was moving down to 135, man, she looked flat. And, lo and behold, because I know one time she kind of tried to front and say, oh, yeah, I feel good. 135 is good for me. But then in another interview, she was like, hey, it's harder to focus at 135. Like 145, she gets to train more, you know, in the sparring and technical training. But when she's making weight for when she's fighting 135, she's spending more time running 30 miles a week, almost 30 miles a week. So while she's running, you know, she's draining herself, sapping herself, and then still trying to cut that last 4 or 5 pounds by sweating it out on before fight night. Did y'all see that one video or one Instagram story she posted? She was like drained, man. She was like a twig, you know. So these weight cuts are rough on these fighters, man. There's got to be a better way. But that's just my take on it. I agree with Megan Anderson 100%. Those are the things I've seen over the years, you know, even with boxing, fighters like Timothy Bradley, Ricky Hatton, you know, all of that blowing up and coming down, blowing up and coming down. You start to suffer loss of brain volume and just your kidneys shutting down. And on fight night, your chin suffers, but also like your strength suffers and your power suffers. You know, you can't hit that hard. You know, you don't got that much steam on your shots, right? And strike resistance is terrible. So, yeah, that was just how I see it. I agree with her, and you know, I don't think Kayla will be at this weight that much longer. Maybe give her 2 or 3 more, but you'll see some rough times in there again, man. You're gonna see some rough times. You might hear some rough news where a fight might get canceled. Hopefully, we never see her pass out on the scale like that. But guys, let me know what y'all think in the comment section on this one. Hit the like and subscribe. Combo Breaker 99. I'm out. Peace.